Okay, so now we get into actually creating the ad itself. So we've gone through our campaign, we've chosen our goal or our objective, we've gone through the ad set, we've decided who the audience is that we're targeting, our placement, our budget, our schedule, all those things. So now as we get into the ad, obviously one thing I didn't hit on with those other two levels was naming your ads, your campaigns. So usually for a campaign level ad, I like to start out with TOF, top of funnel, or MOF, middle of funnel, or BOF, bottom of funnel. That's why I know I can kind of then take my selection and move it how I want to. I like to then reiterate that across each level. So then it'll start with TOF. And then I like to say something about it, whether it's the objective, so maybe it's conversion, right? Say something about it so that I can always go back and kind of understand what the goal was there, right? Especially if like years go by and you're like, what the hell was I doing? You can always go back and understand it. And then through that, maybe something about the target audience. So, US 30 to 54 male or something, there's something in which you can refer back to that's going to be different than any other sort of campaign or ad set. And then you get into your ad. So then what is different about this ad now, right? So you have conversion. So this is your campaign. This is your ad set. And now what is different about your ad? So maybe it's a URL, or maybe it's something, an image, a creative, or a headline, or something like that. You can even go copy 1, copy 2, copy 3, whatever. And then what I like to do as well, as soon as it's posted, as soon as it's up and running, I can then click on that ad and then enter the post ID number. So I'll keep it like that, and I'll run it like that until I get the ad up and running. Then I'll go to the page in which the ad's running and then steal that post ID, come back here, and copy and paste it right into here. So that way, I can always come back in here, and if I want to use the same post with the same social proofing, I can. I just steal the ID. And that's where you come in here, and you would use your existing posting, and then you would select your post that you wanted to. Okay. So, and with that, if you couldn't find your post right in here, what you would do is you would enter that post ID right here. You just copy and paste it in there. So back to creating the ad. So obviously you have your page connected to it. Then you also have your Instagram account connected as well. Then you have your choice format, or how you want your creative to be. So if you have video, obviously you go for video. If you have static image, go for static image. If you have carousel, you can even have a static image that's big enough, depending on your graphic designer, how good they are, and then separating the parceled into 3 pieces. That way you can run a carousel ad that way. Also, you could run carousel ads with, collections of if you sell clothes or widgets, or just, if you have a lot of, a catalog collection, things like that. Which, yes, I know it sounds very similar to collections, but collection is actually different. And you can get pretty carried away with these things as well. And you can use these as templates if you want to. However, I would highly suggest you just stay away from this until you've mastered all the rest of it. And, just like that was a saying, keep it simple, stupid, right? Just keep it simple. Like, don't try to get super crazy. If you have a video, perfect spot. Put a video. If you don't have a video, but you want to, and you just don't have the resources to make it, guess what? Slideshow, get a bunch of static images, and you can create the video in here. It's easy. It's perfect, right? You can even do a PowerPoint if you want to do it that way. But even with here, so you can go in, and now Facebook has these stock images if you don't have your own, and you can type in. So like, let's say if I want to do, back pain. Now, mind you, these will get disapproved because you can't show body parts. But you get my point, is when you have these keywords that you can put in here. These are just going to be static images across the board, no matter what it is, right? And even if I put, pain supplement, just going to show you like other things that they have. Just cool images that might grab people's attention. Now, like I said, though, I don't know why I'm putting back pain supplement, probably because my back hurts, but some little Freudian slip here, right? But basically, you got to watch out what you post, even if it is in these stock images. Your ads can still get disapproved. You can do it enough, and you can still get booted. So keep that in mind. Then you can go to your account, to your Instagram. You can upload images, however you want to do it, and you can even pull in your old mock images or mock ads if you've had any of those. You keep in mind, if you do put images in that have text in them, you have to abide by the 20% text rule. And with that, you'd basically you can go within your own system here. You could go to as part of I believe it's in your Creative Hub, but basically it's the same exact tool right here, and basically you just upload it in here, and it gives you an okay if it's okay, and if not, then you need to keep changing it. The trick with that is, even though it may be 20% or less, depending on where it's positioned, because this system it's a grid system, right? So that's what you have to be careful of. So even if it's less than 20%, your text is less than 20% of the image, just position your text a little bit different, a little higher, a little lower, a little more to the left, a little more to the right. It might help you out a little bit. So, here's that. I'm sure we'll post this in here too, just so you can save it. Next up is obviously just setting this up, and what do you want? Is it a website, Facebook event? Most time it's going to be your website that you're sending it to, and then it's going to be your URL, connected directly to that. So with that, pay attention to your headline, how you want it to look, your text, how you want that to look. Like if I just went, I don't even know what that's going to show. Let's see. Okay, so there you go. I need to change that up real bad. Just goes to show how much you actually pay attention to your own stuff. I'm always dealing with other people's stuff, but really bad at paying attention to my own. So for your headline, it's going to be the second most important piece of this. So first is your creative, that image. That image is going to stop people from scrolling, right? So think of it like that. That's going to stop people in their tracks. You have I don't even know how many milliseconds to get their attention. And think of it for yourself, and do this test on yourself one of these days where you're scrolling, and then kind of replay back what you did. So more than likely you saw the image, and then you hit that headline real quick. And then from that headline, your eyes scrolled up to the top piece right here, right? And then they scroll back down, and where do they go? They go right to the social proofing. Funny thing. This is the psychology of all this, right? And then you might skim over a little bit, look over your CTA and whatnot. So keep that in mind and I'm going to talk about priorities here in a second, but that's going to determine the priorities in which you optimize your ads for. For call to actions, obviously you can do no button, and I actually suggest you test this. Believe it or not, a lot of times people have to have the button there to understand you got to let them know what to do next. So sometimes, even with messenger ads, and you run messenger ads and you say, hey, say something below, it'll be like, people, instead of saying hey, say yes below, or say send me this thing now below, or whatever it is, most people will be like, how do I get this? Or even if it's an ad in which all you got to do is click the ad, they'll say, hey, so what do I do? How do I get, how do I download this ebook or anything like that? They don't. So a lot of times you got to tell people what to do. And then always test these out. For whatever reason, the best thing we've always found for most ads is learn more, unless you're selling a product in a shop now. This is just a two. I don't really play around with overlays too much, but you can test it. URL parameters. So I find this very important. We do this on everything. So I use Google Analytics, or Google's campaign URL builder. You put your website, the source, so FB ads, what's the difference in the campaign? So this is a newsfeed mobile desktop conversion ad running for mortgages, right? So that's how I know. And basically what I want to do is I want to copy everything from this question mark on over here, and then I want to go back, and that's the parameters I'm going to use. So that will show up in Google Analytics, that will show up in different landing page systems that you have across the board. And every time you make it different, if you make the ad different, or if you make the ad set different, you're going to want to change a little piece of that. That way you know and you can track everything. It's all about testing, it's all about tracking, it's all about collecting that data. So it's important for you to know. And then of course, it's very important for you to have your pixel set up and tracking that as well, because that's how you save the data. That's how you teach the system what you want it to learn. All right. If you have an app, if you have offline events, you can set those up. Those will be few and far between, but display link, this is going to be this piece right here. So I'm sure you've seen like those sketchy ones where it's like asdf.clickfunnels.com. That's exactly what it's from, right? So you want to figure out a way to make sure that is your legit URL. Otherwise, if it seems funky, people aren't going to click it. And then this is your newsfeed piece. It says newsfeed just because this only pops up in newsfeed. No other place will pop up, and it will hardly even pop up from mobile, even though it shows it here. It will hardly ever. And so for the most part, I like to, for your newsfeed link description, I just like to reiterate what I want them to do, or how much pain it's not going to cause them. So if I want them to download something, I'll be like less than 2 minutes. Something like that. Takes less than 2 minutes. Like just something that's just to ease their mind and help them like get to that next step. Okay, so as far as creating your texts and creating your headlines, that all has to do with copy. I like to test the difference between long text descriptions and short. I also like to test the difference between adding emojis or not. Believe it or not, you can increase your CTR a lot just by adding emojis, because that helps the eyes pull the eyes into that page, or to that ad and stop, because that's really the bulk of what you're doing here is you're making people stop and you're giving them just enough information to want to go to the next step. Okay, so keep that in mind. Test all these things out. When we are looking at priorities, what we want to start with, sorry, I know I'm scrolling up and down here, but what we want to start with is we want to start with the creative. So whether that is your ad, your image, your carousel ad, your video, that's where we want to begin the testing. So if we're testing for that, we keep the headline the same, we keep the link description the same, the text the same, everything the same except for the creative itself. And that's where we'll find a bulk of what we want is right there. Once that is optimized and we found the ad, the creative that works the best, then we go to that headline and then we test out different headlines. And then from headline, we go up to our text and we change the copy, right? And then we come down and we can play around the difference between the CTAs and all these other things that are just very, the difference will be very small, but you can test the difference there too. And I highly suggest you do all of that. Always test, always test, always test. I know I've said it 10 million times, saying it again, always test. But in the priority of things, it goes creative, headline, text, and then everything else. So usually CTA after that is what I would test. They're between learn more and download now, or shop now and learn more, right? Things of that nature. And then once you nail it, once you get that ad where it's like everything is just perfect, then what you want to do, and I'm going to go over this some more detail later, is you're going to want to run engagement ads to the post to gain more social proofing. That'll help you with your sales later on.